Let's begin with something so simple, yet so widely ignored, knowing what you truly want. This might sound obvious, but most people drift through life with vague ambitions and unclear goals. They say they want to be successful or wealthy or happy, but ask them what that specifically means, and you'll likely get a confused look or a generic answer. That, right there, is the first failure point. Napoleon Hill called it definiteness of purpose, and he regarded it as the foundation of all achievement. The human mind is much like a magnet. It attracts what it is focused on, whether consciously or unconsciously. But here's the dilemma. A magnet without direction can't generate power. A compass without a true north can't guide a ship. And a mind without a definite purpose can't lead you anywhere meaningful. Without clarity, you're pulled in 100 directions, by distractions, by other people's expectations, by fleeting emotions, and none of them lead to fulfillment. Hill spent over 2 decades interviewing the most successful minds of his time, industrialists, inventors, presidents, philosophers. What he found was that every single one of them, without exception, had a clear, burning purpose. Not a wish, not a dream, a well-defined mission held so tightly in their minds that it shaped every thought, every action. Whether it was Andrew Carnegie's vision to dominate the steel industry or Thomas Edison's obsession with electric light, they knew what they wanted before they ever had it. And that's the catch, isn't it? To know what you want before it arrives, to commit to it fully in the absence of evidence. This is not wishful thinking, this is psychological discipline. When the mind commits to a definite aim, the subconscious begins aligning every faculty toward that end. You begin to notice opportunities where others see none. You start developing the habits, the focus, even the stamina to persevere in ways that would seem impossible without purpose, anchoring your every move. Think about this. When you wake up in the morning without a clear goal, how do you feel? Scattered, passive, reactive, you drift. But when you wake up with something to chase, something meaningful, something you've defined in crystal clear terms, the energy shifts. You lead your day. You act rather than react. Purpose creates momentum, and momentum over time becomes power. From a psychological perspective, this definiteness of purpose is what psychologists now recognize as intrinsic motivation. It's the difference between living by default and living by design. When your actions are driven by your own deep sense of purpose, your brain's reward systems light up. You become more resilient to setbacks. Your focus sharpens. Your persistence multiplies. In philosophical terms, purpose is what gives meaning to struggle. Without it, effort feels like suffering. With it, effort becomes devotion. Now, there's something else Hill emphasized. Your purpose must be specific. I want to be rich is not a purpose. That's a fantasy. I want to earn sor ibet, ling a year doing work that aligns with my talents in the next Sherba months. That's a purpose. It's measurable, it's directional, it demands action, and most importantly, it forces your mind to take ownership. Because once you define your aim, you can no longer pretend that you don't know what to do. You can't hide behind confusion or laziness. That definition becomes a mirror. A mirror. It reflects whether your choices are moving you forward or pulling you back. And that's powerful and at times uncomfortable, but growth rarely happens in comfort. So if you take nothing else from this message, take this: clarity is the seed of greatness. Until you know precisely what you want, you cannot marshal the forces of your mind, your energy, your network, or your time. Purpose is not just the first principle in thinking and growing rich. It is the asterisk gateway to every other principle. It is the filter through which desire, faith, planning, persistence, and action gain their power. Decide what you want clearly, specifically, and unapologetically. The world makes way for the man or woman who knows where they're going, because purpose isn't a luxury. It's the beginning of everything. Once you've established a clear and definite purpose, the next essential element, and I do mean essential, is desire. But not just any desire. Napoleon Hill didn't write about casual interest or passing wants. He wrote about burning desire, the kind that consumes you from within, that shapes your thoughts, fuels your will, and refuses to be silenced until it's fulfilled. This isn't poetic exaggeration. This is psychological necessity. Because without intense desire, no goal, no matter how clear or logical, will ever truly move you. The human mind resists change by nature. It clings to comfort, to habit, to safety. Only a powerful emotional force can override that resistance, and burning desire is that force. Let me be clear, desire is not a passive emotion. It's not something you simply feel. It's something you cultivate, something you commit to. Think of desire as mental fire. If you feed it, it grows hotter. If you neglect it, it dies. That's why vague wishes don't work. I'd like to have more money, or it would be nice to be successful. These are the dying embers of thought. They don't generate movement. But when a desire becomes an obsession, when it takes root in your mind and colors everything you see, that's when it starts transforming your behavior. Hill observed that all great achievement begins with desire. Before Edison created the light bulb, he failed thousands of times, and the only thing that kept him going was an unrelenting obsession with his goal. Desire was the emotional engine that powered his persistence. Without it, he would have quit. Most people do. Now, here's where belief comes into the equation. Hill was adamant desire alone is not enough. It must be paired with faith. And again, let's strip away the cliches. Faith in this context is not blind optimism. It's not religious dogma. Faith is the emotional certainty that what you desire is not only possible, but inevitable. If you do the work, it is the mental state that says this will happen. I may not know how yet, but I know that I will find a way. Psychologically, this belief becomes self-fulfilling. When you believe in the certainty of your outcome, your brain stops filtering out opportunities. It begins scanning for connections, resources, and pathways. You act more decisively. You carry yourself differently. People respond to your conviction because conviction is magnetic. That's why Hill stressed that belief must be built intentionally. It doesn't always come naturally. You repeat it to yourself. You dwell on it. You reinforce it through visualization, through self-talk, through conscious focus. You rehearse success mentally long before it shows up physically. Desire without belief leads to frustration. Belief without desire leads to passivity. But when the two combine, a burning desire fused with unshakable faith, that's when you become truly dangerous to mediocrity. Now think about your own life. Ask yourself, what do I want so badly that I'm willing to think about it every day? What do I want so deeply that I'm willing to sacrifice comfort for it, delay gratification for it, fail repeatedly for it? If you can't answer that, you haven't found your burning desire yet. And without it, you won't have the fuel for the journey. Hill went as far as to say, every human being who reaches the age of understanding of the purpose of money wishes for it. Wishing will not bring riches, but desiring riches with a state of mind that becomes an obsession, then planning definite ways and means to acquire riches, and backing those plans with persistence, that is what will bring riches. It's not just money. This applies to health, to mastery, to love, to any meaningful outcome. You must want it enough to create momentum, and then believe in it enough to sustain the momentum when obstacles arise. Let me leave you with this. If purpose gives you direction, then desire and belief give you drive. You don't need to know every step. You just need to want it so much that not pursuing it would feel like betrayal. And then you must believe every single day that it's already yours in the making. Because what you desire and believe in with conviction, you will find a way to achieve. It starts with fire, and it survives by faith. Once you've defined a clear purpose and backed it with desire and belief, you enter a more subtle, yet absolutely critical phase of the process, the daily conditioning of your mind. This is where most people lose momentum, not because they don't want success, but because they fail to consciously manage their thoughts. And as Napoleon Hill so insightfully observed, the mind does not remain neutral. If you're not deliberately feeding it empowering thoughts, it will default to fear, doubt, and limitation. That's where the concept of autosuggestion enters. Hill didn't invent the idea, but he gave it structure. Autosuggestion is the practice of deliberately influencing your subconscious mind through repeated, emotionally charged statements, affirmations, if you will, spoken aloud, written down, visualized, and felt with intensity. It may sound overly simplistic, but don't mistake simplicity for weakness. In psychological terms, autosuggestion is a method of reprogramming the mental software that governs your behavior. Think of your subconscious mind as incredibly powerful, but also completely impartial. It accepts whatever you repeatedly tell it, especially if your words are backed by emotion. If you constantly tell yourself, I'm not good enough, I'll probably fail, or I never get the right breaks, your subconscious accepts those statements and begins to organize your behavior to align with that internal script. But if you deliberately and consistently affirm, I am capable, I deserve success, I will persist until I win, and you repeat these messages with conviction, then over time your beliefs shift, your identity transforms, and your actions follow suit. This isn't mystical, it's behavioral psychology. The thoughts you dwell on become neural pathways. The more you think a thought, the easier it is to think again, and soon that thought becomes your default. So when Hill talks about repeating your definite chief aim twice a day, once in the morning, and once before bed, what he's really doing is giving you a method for internal alignment. You're reinforcing purpose and desire through suggestion so that your subconscious mind begins to operate in harmony with your conscious goals. This process also demands something we often underestimate: emotional intensity. You can't mumble your affirmations and expect results. You have to engage your emotions. The subconscious responds to feeling, not logic. That's why fear-based thinking is so powerful. It's charged with emotion, but so is faith, so is excitement. You must feel the outcome you desire as if it were already real. You must speak the words not as a wish, but as a command to yourself, a reminder of what you are becoming. And this ties directly into what Hill called the positive mental attitude. It's not about fake optimism or pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing over and over to focus your attention on solutions rather than problems, on potential rather than obstacles, on growth rather than fear. A positive mental attitude is the lens through which all your experiences pass. It determines whether setbacks become fuel or defeat. When your attitude is negative, even opportunity feels like a threat. But when your attitude is positive, even failure becomes a stepping stone. That's why attitude isn't just part of success. It's the constant interpreter of your reality. And the beautiful thing is, it's within your control. You may not control what happens to you, but you do control how you respond, what you focus on, and what you reinforce through thought and language. So here's the truth. If you don't deliberately shape your mindset, the world will do it for you. And the world is loud with limitation. That's why you need a daily practice, a ritual of mental conditioning. Repetition, emotion, clarity. You affirm your purpose. You visualize the result. You speak as if the future were already forming. Not once, not occasionally, daily, because change isn't created through intensity alone. It's created through consistency. You've already learned that purpose gives you direction, and desire and belief give you drive. But mindset cultivated through autosuggestion and reinforced by a positive attitude, gives you alignment. It turns your mind into a tool rather than a trap. It keeps you steady when life tries to shake your foundation. It allows you to act like the person you intend to become long before the results arrive. So let me leave you with this. You are always suggesting something to yourself. The only question is what. Choose your thoughts with the same care as you choose your goals, because what you repeat, you become. And who you become determines what you create. After purpose, desire, belief, and mental conditioning come into play, there is still one essential force that determines whether any of it takes root and lasts: persistence. If purpose is the seed, then persistence is the soil that protects it, nurtures it, and allows it to grow even when conditions are harsh. Without persistence, every other principle loses its power. Because, let's be honest, no matter how strong your desire, how clear your vision, or how sharp your mindset, you will be tested. Not once, not twice, repeatedly. Life will ask you again and again, do you really mean it? Most people don't. They say they want success, but they give up at the first sign of resistance. They lack staying power. Hill called persistence a state of mind that can be cultivated just like any other habit. And here's the important part. It doesn't rely on raw willpower alone. Persistence grows from purpose. When your goal matters deeply to you, when it's emotionally charged, giving up doesn't feel like an option. It feels like self-betrayal. You press on not because you're told to, but because you must. But even the most determined individual has limits. That's where one of Hill's most profound insights comes in: the power of the mastermind. No one achieves lasting success, and the idea of the lone genius, the self-made man, is more myth than reality. Behind every extraordinary achievement is a network, a group of minds aligned in purpose, reinforcing one another, expanding each other's thinking, and holding each other to a higher standard. But Hill defined a mastermind as the coordination of knowledge and effort in a spirit of harmony between two or more people for the attainment of a definite purpose. This isn't just teamwork. It's not a committee. It's a conscious alliance of minds formed with intention. When you surround yourself with the right people, those who believe in your vision, challenge your thinking, and refuse to let you quit, you amplify your strength beyond measure. From a psychological standpoint, the mastermind is both protective and expansive. It protects you from your own doubts by reinforcing belief when your confidence wavers. And it expands your vision by exposing you to ideas, experiences, and resources that you alone might never discover. You borrow courage from others when yours runs low. You gain momentum from shared enthusiasm. And most importantly, you gain accountability, a force far more powerful than motivation. You see, most people operate in isolation, and as a result, their goals remain optional. No one knows if they're trying. No one cares if they stop. But when you've declared your purpose to others, when you've made a promise not just to yourself but to a group of people who expect you to follow through, something shifts. The stakes rise. Your identity becomes tethered to the pursuit of your goal. And that identity, supported by a mastermind, becomes unshakable. Persistence and collaboration are two sides of the same coin. One keeps you moving forward when you want to retreat. The other ensures you're not moving alone. And when they work together, when your inner resolve is backed by external reinforcement, you become incredibly hard to stop. This is not theory. It is a pattern repeated across every great success story. Behind every breakthrough is a trail of failures overcome by persistence and a circle of minds united in purpose. The Wright brothers failed hundreds of times before their first successful flight, but they persisted together. Henry Ford was told he'd never build a car for the common man, but his team believed in the mission, and together they revolutionized. In every case, it wasn't just one man's willpower that won the day. It was collective belief, shared effort, and the refusal to give in. And so the question comes back to you, how badly do you want what you say you want? And who are you surrounding yourself with to help you get there? If your vision is clear, your desire burning, your belief unshakable, and your mind conditioned, you are halfway there. But to cross the threshold from wish to reality, you must refuse to quit, and you must refuse to walk alone. Because in the end, success doesn't go to the most talented or the most fortunate. It goes to those who persist longer and those wise enough to link arms with others on the same path. Surround yourself wisely, persist relentlessly, and the results in time will speak for themselves